Janelle walked away with nothing. Or did she? Shocking rumors claim she just slapped Kody with a massive fraud lawsuit. And if this turns out to be true, it is going to change the entire landscape of the Sister Wives universe. For years, we watched as the self-proclaimed chief financial officer of the Brown family poured her hard-earned retirement savings, her Vegas house equity, and her absolute trust into a shared dream that ultimately only benefited Kody and Robyn. We all heard her say it on camera, that she was left with zero assets to her name and nothing to leave her children. It was one of the most heartbreaking, infuriating storylines in reality television history. But the internet is currently exploding with a massive, very specific theory. Fans are starting to put the pieces together from Janelle's early 2026 business moves, and the speculation is that she has secretly hired forensic accountants and a ruthless legal team to get every single penny back. And by the end of this, I will show you the exact Arizona real estate loophole fans have uncovered. The one legal angle regarding Coyote Pass that almost nobody noticed, which might just be the very thing that forces Kody and Robyn to sell their million-dollar mansion and face total financial ruin. But to fully understand how Janelle might be legally backing Kody into a corner today, we have to start at the beginning, at the very moment she was allegedly trapped. Let us go back and look at the documented facts, because before we get into the wild fan theories and the rumored lawsuit, we have to look at the paper trail TLC actually showed us. The move from Las Vegas to Flagstaff, Arizona, was a financial disaster for almost everyone in the family, except of course for Robyn. When the family decided to uproot, it was heavily documented on the show that Janelle made the ultimate sacrifice. She cashed out her 401k to help pay for the family's debts and to secure the down payments for the Flagstaff properties. This is not a rumor. She stated it herself in her confessional interviews. Furthermore, we know from the show that the proceeds from the sale of her Las Vegas home, money that was rightfully hers, were rolled straight into the family pot. And where did that family pot go? A massive chunk of it went straight into the down payment for Robyn's sprawling, million-dollar mansion on the hill. Janelle lived in rentals. She lived in a literal RV on a patch of dirt with no water or electricity, all while Kody and Robyn were living in luxury, collecting precious moments figurines and fine art. Janelle openly admitted on television that she made a massive mistake trusting the family structure with her finances. She said she felt stupid, that she had been naive, and that she was suddenly in her 50s with absolutely nothing in her own name, completely dependent on a man who was actively pushing her away. But hold that thought, because that feeling of having nothing might have just been the catalyst for the greatest comeback in reality TV history. You see, while Janelle was crying in her confessional about her empty bank account, fans on Reddit were already pulling public property records for Coyote Pass. Now here is where the story shifts from what we saw on TV to what the public records actually say, and this matters so much for the lawsuit theory. Coyote Pass was divided into several parcels. The way Kody set up the deeds was incredibly convoluted, but basically, Kody's name was on everything, usually alongside one or two of the wives. Janelle's name was on a parcel, but it was tied up with Kody's. She could not just sell her piece of the land and walk away because she didn't own it outright independently. She was legally tethered to Kody. Fans and legal experts who watched the show pointed out that this was a brilliant, if perhaps unintentional, way to trap her. If she wanted to build, she needed Kody's cooperation to pay off the land and redraw the property lines. If she wanted to sell, she needed his signature. He held all the cards, and according to the dynamic we saw play out on our screens, he used that leverage to keep her in a state of limbo. But that brings us to the massive shift that happened in early 2026. As we all know, it has been an incredibly difficult few years for the Brown family. The tragic passing of Garrison in early 2024 shattered the family, and the ongoing healing process has been a quiet, deeply personal journey. Out of that profound grief, we started to see a very different Janelle emerge. A Janelle who was entirely focused on her surviving children, her health, and her absolute independence. In early 2026, Janelle began launching new independent business ventures and distancing herself completely from Flagstaff. We saw her traveling, expanding her wellness brand, and setting up a life that visibly had zero ties to the toxic environment Kody had created. But here is the detail fans notice that sparked the current frenzy. To launch these new businesses, to travel, to set up a totally independent life, you need capital. You need money. So where did the woman who just a few years ago cried on national television about having an empty bank account suddenly get the capital to fund her new empire? This is where the fan theories catch fire. And while none of this is confirmed in a court of law yet, the speculation is incredibly compelling. The rumor tearing through the fan community right now is that Janelle didn't just walk away from Flagstaff. Fans theorize she quietly hired forensic accountants to trace every single dollar she put into the family pot from the year they moved to Flagstaff until the day she left. We are talking about tracing the 401k withdrawal. We are talking about tracing the equity from the Vegas house, and most importantly, tracing exactly how much of Janelle's money went directly into Kody and Robyn's personal assets. Now, why would she need forensic accountants unless she was preparing for a massive legal strike? According to the deep dives on Reddit and various Sister Wives fan forums, people are speculating that Janelle is gearing up to, or already secretly has, slapped Kody with a lawsuit. But what kind of lawsuit? Well, here is where it gets fascinating. In the eyes of the law, Kody and Janelle were never legally married. They were in a spiritual union, which means they do not have the protection or the standard division of assets that comes with a legal divorce. When a legal marriage ends, a judge splits the assets. When a spiritual marriage ends, it is just two private citizens untangling a messy web of joint property. Legally speaking, Kody could argue that any money Janelle gave him or the family pot was a gift. But fans who have studied Arizona law point out that there is something called an implied partnership, or a constructive trust. An implied partnership means that even if you aren't legally married, if you act like business partners, pool your resources, and make financial decisions with the mutual understanding that everyone benefits, the law might recognize that a business partnership existed. If Janelle can prove, perhaps through years of documented television footage where she was referred to as the CFO, and where they explicitly discussed pooling money for the collective good, that an implied contract existed, she might have grounds to sue for breach of contract or even fraud. Fans are theorizing that Janelle's legal team could argue that Kody committed financial fraud by taking Janelle's money under the guise of building on Coyote Pass, only to systematically siphon those funds to secure a luxury lifestyle for his only legal wife, Robyn. But that is not even the strangest part of this whole legal theory. Let us go back to Coyote Pass. We talked about how her name is tied to Kody's on the deed, seemingly trapping her. Well, real estate experts in the fan base have pointed out a little something called a partition action. A partition action is a type of lawsuit you can file when two or more people own a piece of real estate together and they cannot agree on what to do with it. You cannot just force someone to stay in a co-ownership situation forever against their will. If Janelle files a partition lawsuit in the state of Arizona, she can ask a judge to force the sale of the Coyote Pass property. The court would literally order the land to be sold at fair market value, and the proceeds would be divided among the owners based on their equity stake. Can you imagine the panic in Kody's eyes if he gets served with a partition action? For years, Coyote Pass has been his ultimate bargaining chip. It was the dream he dangled in front of his wives to keep them compliant. But if Janelle forces a court-ordered sale, Kody loses all control. He would have to liquidate the property. But hold on, because the theory gets even wilder, and this is the massive payoff I promised you. Let us say Janelle's rumored forensic accountants actually trace her specific Vegas money directly to Robyn's mansion. And let us say her lawyers file a lawsuit claiming a constructive trust or unjust enrichment. Unjust enrichment basically means it is wildly unfair that one person benefited at the expense of another in a way the law shouldn't allow. If a judge looks at the mountain of evidence, the TLC clips, the bank statements, the 401k withdrawals, and decides that Janelle was essentially defrauded into paying for Robyn's house while she was left to live in an RV, what is the remedy? The court could theoretically place a lien on Kody and Robyn's mansion. Yes, you heard that right. The ultimate fan theory right now is that Janelle's secret lawsuit could directly target the McMansion on the Hill. If Kody and Robyn cannot afford to pay Janelle back the hundreds of thousands of dollars she is allegedly owed in a lump sum, and let us be honest, Based on their reported spending habits, nobody thinks they have that kind of liquid cash lying around. They would only have one option. They would be forced to sell the mansion to satisfy the debt. This is the poetic justice the entire Sister Wives fan base has been praying for. For over a decade, viewers have watched Robyn play the victim while sitting in a house funded by the blood, sweat, and tears of the other women. We watched Mary give up her legal marriage. We watched Christine pack up and leave. And we watched Janelle quietly crunch the numbers, realize she had been played, and tearfully admit she had nothing left. The idea that Janelle, the quiet, logical, numbers-driven wife, is the one who finally brings the whole financial house of cards crashing down is almost too perfect for reality television. It makes her 2026 business moves make so much sense. Fans are looking at her recent travels and her confident new brand and saying, that is not the energy of a woman who just accepted defeat and walked away broke. That is the energy of a woman who has a plan. That is the energy of a woman who knows her legal team is working quietly in the background, building an ironclad case. The theory suggests she is distancing herself, building her own independent wealth, and letting Kody think he got away with it, right up until the moment the process server knocks on Robyn's front door. Now, we have to remember to separate fact from theory here. As of today, no official lawsuit has been made public in the Arizona court dockets. Janelle has not come out and publicly stated she is suing Kody for fraud. Everything regarding the forensic accountants, the partition action, and the targeting of Robyn's mansion is heavily researched fan speculation based on the breadcrumbs left behind in recent months. But the timeline is incredibly hard to ignore. The financial facts are a matter of public record and television history. We know she put the money in. We know she didn't get it back. We know Kody and Robyn's names are on the big assets. Those parts are undeniably true. The only question left is whether Janelle has decided to take the legal leap to forcefully take back what is rightfully hers. And if she does, it changes the entire legacy of this family. It goes from a tragic story of women being financially abused by a patriarchal system to an incredibly empowering story of a woman using the very laws of the land to reclaim her life and her wealth. Kody has always styled himself as the general, the leader, the man in charge of the big picture. But if this lawsuit theory proves true, it will be Janelle who delivers the ultimate checkmate. So now I want to turn it over to you, because this is the kind of debate that completely splits the fan base. Should Janelle drag Kody to court and force the sale of Coyote Pass and Robyn's mansion? Or should she just walk away, cut her losses, and focus entirely on her new life in 2026? Does Kody actually deserve to face total financial ruin for how he handled the family pot? Or was Janelle a willing participant who just made a bad investment? Whose side are you on? Let me know your absolute honest opinion down in the comments, because I read every single one of them. And if you love digging into the real truth behind reality television just as much as I do, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out, and it guarantees you won't miss any updates if these legal documents finally hit the public record. Stick around, stay curious, and keep your eyes on the details.